Hey, it's Andrew Huang, and these are my top 10 plugins that came out in 2022. We got a mix of effects, instruments, a lot of fun stuff. There's a free plugin in here. Also want to let you know that this video is not sponsored. None of the companies who make these plugins know that I'm making this video, let alone are paying for it. But I do have a relationship with Plugin Boutique. I've been doing my affiliate links with them for plugins for several months. So if you want to support this channel, there are affiliate links in the description. Let's jump into it. In the number 10 spot, we got a free plugin. This is a Codec by a company whose name I don't know how to pronounce, Lease. Codec degrades your signal, sort of like turning it into an MP3, I guess, but with control over all the possible little artifacts. It's very fun. I'm gonna run my latest single through it because self-promotion. So let's turn up the mix. And get it real crunchy. This loss control really messes things up. There's a random mode and a smooth mode. I like the repeat mode though. Just fun glitchiness. And then you can mess it up even more with this crunch control. I guess it's like it distorts a certain band. So a really fun free plugin, definitely worth automating a lot of the parameters to come up with really fun little sound design bits and transitions in your songs. I'm gonna drag this single down to our next track and keep using it as our example because we have a second plugin that does a similar thing and it's much more full featured. This is Digitalis from Aberrant DSP. This plugin is so deep, it can do so many different things. It's also very reasonably priced. You can like sequence stuff right from within it if you don't wanna get into your automation lanes. There's multiple modules that you can rearrange. You can change the background. There's a little cat that tells you what all the controls do. Let's just run through some presets. So this is like the final boss of degrading your audio if you're into any of that kind of like digital glitching, errors, MP3 YouTube compression, just all of that wildness is contained in Digitalis. I've been having a lot of fun with it. Now to go with something super pristine in my number 8 slot, we've got Opal, a synthesizer from Universal Audio. So this is just such a full-featured, great-sounding synthesizer. You've got 3 oscillators you can mix. The third one is the option to bring in some sub-octaves. All of them have this nice chorusing ensemble mode. First one also has FM. As you can see from this tiny arrow, it's getting FM'd from the second oscillator. The second oscillator has sync. And then all of them, you can choose between these analog modeled waveforms or a huge amount of wavetables. I'll just pick one at random. Now, the really cool thing about Opal is that it has this morphing filter. So this will be best demonstrated if I put the cutoff somewhere in the middle. And now if I drag up on this, we sweep from low pass to band pass to high pass to some kind of interesting notch stuff, and then all the way back around to low pass. And it can just keep going like that. And so I love this as an extra sound design element so we can assign one of the LFOs to the filter cutoff. Wow, it's fast. So we got a filter moving, and we've got the filter morphing. Like There's just so much more fun, cool movement you can do with both of those things in combination, rather than your typical kind of like, okay, you got a low pass and the filter's going up and down. No shade to that, classic technique. And there's tons of stuff to this synth, it's very deep, but the one other thing I'll highlight is that there's fantastic effects here. So you get 2 effects, you can route them series, parallel, a whole bunch of different options here. But you've got like a bunch of the stuff that people love from Universal Audio, like this 76 style compressor, beautiful sounding delays, nice rich reverbs. It's a beautiful synth, Opal. In my number 7 slot, I've got I Heart New York 2 from Baby Audio. This is just a really great sounding compressor. And the genius thing they've done is incorporate this XY control where on the Y-axis, X, Y. Dry wet on the Y-axis, and they have the amount of compression on the X-axis. So it's a much more intuitive way to dial in parallel compression, and then you can open up this tweak interface to get into the settings. I love cranking harmonics because there's also just this really nice drive that happens with them. Let me show you a little bit of this in action. So here's a drum loop from my splice pack. Self-promotion. Let's dial in the settings at max. So here we got no compression, and we're going up in amount as well as dry wet. Love that saturation it adds to the kick drum. This is a little harsh though, so I'm gonna dial back the dry wet. So more than just a compressor, there's a good amount of tone shaping you can do with this too. I just really like how it sounds, and it's got a nice workflow that's a little bit different from your standard compressor that can be really kind of numbers focused. Let's use that same drum loop on our next example. Number 6 in my list this year, it's actually 7 plugins. It's the Moog Moger Foger suite. They have made really great sounding digital versions of their pedals. I've been eyeing these on the secondhand market for a long time and just not quite ready to drop the amount of money needed to get them, but now I have them on my computer. They sound fantastic. First of all of them have this drive control. Has a really nice distortion, and I mean, you get all the Moger Fogers. Filter with the envelope follower. This nice delay. Cluster flux. It's also kind of a delay, but I guess it's more intended as a flange or a chorus. Freakbox has an oscillator that is tracked to the volume of the incoming signal. The Murph is like a sequenced filter bank. And then we've got this really nice sounding phaser. Simple phaser, but sounds great. Lastly, kind of the least useful, not just for Moogs, but just like in general, the least useful effect, the ring modulator. I mean, of course, ring modulators have their place. Probably they're, better in synthesis than as like how you think of guitar pedals, but sometimes you want that ring mod sound. One interesting thing with the Moger Fogers is that they have this CV panel, and you can actually connect them to each other. Like if you wanted to use the LFO from one to be an additional LFO on another pedal, you can do that. Look, it knows which other ones I have open, and you can like choose to connect them together. I think that's so cool that they found a way to incorporate the CV connectivity that was such a unique part of their pedals into this plugin domain. You know what? Let's keep using this drum loop. We're gonna demonstrate fragments. This is just a really solid granular plugin. And there are so many different sound shaping possibilities with it. I'm just gonna scroll through presets for you. As you can see down here too, there's a lot of modulation options that you can assign to any of the controls. In that Tesla Coil single I just released, Fragments was responsible for a lot of the cool sound effects in it. gonna pop over to Premiere now, because in my number 4 slot, iZotope RX10. This is like a suite of plugins, and they have saved me so many times, so check out this little clip. And keep in mind, that is close mic'd. Sometimes I don't get my mic situation right, and if you listen to this, there's a little bit of a crackle where it clips. Had my volume too hot. And keep in mind, that is close mic'd. So I put declip on that. And keep in mind, that is close mic. And the clicks are gone and it sounds totally natural. And then as one more thing that I really like, sometimes, you know, I talk kind of loud and obnoxiously. And depending on where the mic is in my room, there's like some reflections that, I don't know, just don't sound as good to me. So if you listen to this again. And keep in mind, that is close mic'd and we crank the volume. Doesn't sound too bad, but I'm gonna turn on de-reverb. And keep in mind, that is close mic'd and we crank the volume. So, man, this plugin is just like magic. You can hear how it just removes the reverb. And keep in mind, that is close mic'd and we crank the volumes. And keep in mind, that is close mic'd and we crank the volumes. So, like, all of that room reflection is just gone. So there are so many plugins in this suite that just help you with audio cleanup. Breath control is great to dip breaths a little bit. Like, so if you're going into a compressor, you don't want the compressor to bring all the breaths up. There's a specific guitar denoiser for like those string kind of scratch sounds, as well as pick noise and amp noise. Spectral denoise is kind of a nice general purpose denoiser. I use this a lot on recordings from bad environments where there's like some kind of background noise. And then also super specific but very handy RX mouth declick. Sometimes you just get someone who it sounds like they're always talking with a mouthful of chewing gum, and this solves it for you. Number 3, Sublab XL. Sublab has been out for a while, but Sublab XL just came out a few months ago, and this gives you a lot more control over the sound than the original did. Probably my favorite thing though about it is that they added this macro page, so you can have a few different controls assigned to these 2 macros, but also it has a sick visualizer with it. It actually has a bunch of different ones depending on like which of these folders you're in. It's the easiest way to make subs or even other types of mono synth lines. I loved the original Sublab. I love Sublab XL even more. Sounds awesome. Very fun to work with. In slot number 2, we have Eventide Fission, and this is an actually mind-blowing plugin. They have really innovated here. So Fission can separate a sound into the transient and what they call the tonal, or like, it's more like the non-transient, sustained stuff. Check this out. You've got the transient section and the tonal section here. I'm gonna turn off the effects on both so you can just hear the sound and how it's divided between transient and tonal. That's the original. So I'm gonna solo one of these bands. We'll start with the transient one. Now you're hearing just what it's detecting as transients, but I can choose how much of the sound I want it to include as transient. So if I put this all the way to transient, you just hear the original sound. If I dial that back, more of the original sound goes into tonal, and then you just get a couple controls over what the transient should be. And there's also different algorithms for like what kind of sound you're dealing with, so I've got full mix on here. Now, even though it sounds really artifacty, it's usually fine because you're gonna have both the transient and the tonal together, and they always sum back into the original sound. So if I solo the tonal side now, we can remove all the sharp attacks of the drums. And why this is really handy is you can now put effects, bunch of different effects, on either the transient or the tonal side. I think the best example to use here is to put reverb on the tonal side. So now we're hearing this track with a bunch of nice reverb on it, but the transients aren't getting verbed. If I dial more of the sound over to the tonal side, you'll hear what it would sound like with the transients hitting the reverb. Gets all messy, a lot more high end, these like echoing little bits of drums. And I dial that back, and now I can still have that reverb, but not on the transients is wild. Or what happens if we do the opposite? Reverb on the transients, nothing on the tonal. Now it's like we put reverb on just the drums of this full mix. Now, my number one plugin of the year was Native Instruments Playbox. This is a genius plugin. There's three main elements to it. You get to choose a bunch of chords. You can design them yourself, or there are a whole bunch of different preset groupings. I'm just gonna choose one at random. And then there are samples. You can drag in your own samples, but again, there's a whole bunch of different presets. I will again choose one at random. And then there are effects. There's a bunch of different effects that you can choose from. You can reorder them, of course, and then there's some modulation that you can apply to them. And of course, there's also a lot of different preset effects settings. Let's pick heat. Okay, so I haven't heard anything that I've selected yet. I've chosen some chords, I've chosen some samples, I've chosen what effects that they're going through. So now the octave of C3 to C4 in MIDI notes, and just the white notes, will correspond to the different chord slots here. And so now I'm triggering this group of samples with these chords going through these effects. And it's so fun to just hit this randomize all button and see what happens when you play it. And then there's even individual slot randomizations. Like if I didn't like that last chord, let's randomize again. That's cool. Let's randomize another time. So cool. Yeah, so one of the effects is an arpeggiator, so it's like spreading this out. So it's not just about held chord progressions. You can also generate little melodies with it. And like, let's say you like the samples, but you don't like the chords, randomize just the chords. Let's try again. Oh, that's a fun chord. And up here, you can also change the key if you want. I'm gonna drop this down an octave. Adjust the effects to your taste. It's just an instant vibe maker, inspiration generator. I've started so many tracks with Playbox. It's brilliant. So I hope that was interesting for you. I honestly have no idea how long this video is now. I was trying to just show you the most special stuff about each plugin because a detailed walkthrough of 10 plugins in one video would be nuts. Again, there's affiliate links in the description if you want to support the channel. Leave a comment, let me know your thoughts, and also Tesla Coil is out everywhere right now. Check it out. I'll put a link for that in the description as well. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.